Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is tech.sam and today is day 2 of our 100 days of DevOps challenge. So a quick recap of what we did yesterday. Yesterday being day 1, we did introduction to DevOps and our environmental setup where we installed our hypervisor, downloaded our OS, we downloaded our SSH client, and we also downloaded our IDE. So we did the setting up. If you missed that video, you can check the playlist for day 1 video and follow along. Or if you want to go back, if you missed a step or you need a form of reference, you can always go back to the day 1 video to get clearer understanding. So today is day 2 and today we'll be focusing on mastering Linux file system and terminal navigation. So like I said, majorly we'll be working with Linux in this 100 days. We're going to be using Linux, so it's very important that we understand how to interact with Linux. So if you're new to Linux or you've not used Linux before, do not worry. I'm going to take you through everything that we'll need to actually be able to go around our Linux environment. So we'll cover understanding the Linux file system, then we'll move to terminal navigation, we'll move to file and folder management, we'll also go to viewing and editing files, then we'll go to file permissions and ownership, we'll consider hidden files also, and also search utility, man pages and help, and user account management basics. So this is what we are going to be doing today. So let us go straight into the business of the day. So I've already so this is our SSH client like we installed yesterday, and like I said, if you missed that particular video, you can always check the playlist for day 1 video and watch it to install the necessary things. So I remember this is the IP address 192.168.199.136. So I just click on it and it's going to request for my username. Let me make this big. Okay. So if you notice, it did not ask me for password. So that's because when we tried to install it yesterday, we accepted the connectivity between the SSH client and our virtual machine. So in subsequent logins, it's not going to ask you for password because it saves your username and your password in a file on the SSH client, so you don't always have to input your password every time. So I'm going to clear this now. Okay, so first thing on our list is understanding Linux file system structure. So I'm just going to take my time to explain the Linux file system because it is very essential that we understand the Linux file system and how things are arranged. Basically, Linux file system it's just basically how files are arranged in Linux, just grouping of files, and it's arranged in various directories. So that's just the whole concept of the file system, so that it enables you to, when you want to debug, when you want to search for things, so you don't always go up and down, or you don't always go around looking or trying to figure out where this particular file will possibly be. If you're familiar with the file system, you just know that okay, some certain type of file is always stored in this particular repository. So you go to this particular repository and then you are able to retrieve what you want to retrieve. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is the /bin. Which is the /bin. So when you see I'm going to start with the first, which is the root directory. So the root directory is like the ultimate parent directory. So that is the foundational directory in which other directories are put under. So that's the root directory. So, and this root directory is there are two types of users when it comes to Linux. There's a root. Remember, yesterday I said it that the root is similar to the administrator. So the administrative user, which is the root, and then the normal user. So this directory is only available to the root user, not a normal user. So as a normal user, you won't have these directories in your space, but you can always go to these directories. However, when you go to these directories, you might not be able to perform some kind of operations as a normal user. But if you're using an elevated privilege like I did yesterday, you might be able to perform some operations also. So that's another view of what the root directory is. It's just the administrative directory in which other directories or other folders. When I say directory, it's almost similar to folder. So I will be using them interchangeably. That's I can use directory, I can use folder. It's all the same thing, but I prefer to call it directory. That's the terminology that we use. So I prefer to call it directory. So from there we go to the /bin. /bin usually just contains your it's short form for binary. So it contains all your applications and all the program that you run. That's your commands. Whatever command you want to type on the terminal. If you're doing ls, if you're doing cat, if you're doing that's commands of like a basic user or both super user. So it's in the /bin. There's also another directory that is not here. Probably when I get to the when I show you the terminal, I'll be able to see that directory. So apart from /bin, there is also /sbin. So the difference between the /bin and the sbin is that the sbin only contains commands that can be run as a super user. So there are some commands, like I said, there are some commands that you will not be able to run as a normal user, but as a super user, you'll be able to run those commands. So those commands are put in the /sbin. Like I said, Linux is very, very organized when it comes to arrangement of these things. So we don't mix the general commands with a super user command. So yeah, so from that we move to boot. So this is actually self-explanatory. It contains all the files that enables your Linux system to boot the grep file and every other thing. So it contains that particular file. So if you have any issues that have to do with booting of your system, so this is where you would normally want to go to and check. And this is the file that you have to be careful with if you don't have good knowledge of what you want to do, because if you tamper with anything in this particular directory, you might crash your system. So you wouldn't want to do that in a production environment if you're not familiar with what you're doing. As a test, you can go there, you can break and fix things. If you're running your own VM on your hypervisor, you can actually just go there, play with it, see what, if you break things, you try and fix it, just to get good knowledge. But in a real world environment, in a production environment, if you're not really familiar with what you want to do, this is a file or this is a directory that you would want to stay away from or stay clear from. So the next directory is the /dev. So this /dev, it contains the device files. That's the files that helps your device to function properly once the device is already booted up. So it contains all these files. So you can, if you plug in a new webcam now or a new USB, so the operations that you carry out with these devices are always in the /dev. So the next is the /etc. This is one of my favorite directories because it contains everything configuration. And one thing I actually love doing is configuring things. So this contains predominantly your configuration file. So if there's anything wrong with your configuration whatsoever, if it is your SSH configuration, if it is your Nginx configuration, every type of configuration. Once it has to do with configuration, you have to go to the /etc because that is where your configuration files would always be. /home is self-explanatory. This is the home directory of whatever user is created, because when you create a user, it's not isolated. There's a directory for it which is still under the root directory. So the root directory actually has the power to access any user's account or any user's directory. because it's the super user. So, but each user is given a directory in the /home directory. So that contains the user directory. So whatever user will create, we're going to create a user in this video, and would confirm that the user is in the /home directory. So the next directory is the /lib. So this contains libraries. So libraries are files containing codes that your application can use. So they contain snippets of code the application used to draw on your desktop, on your Linux environment. So it basically just contains codes that your application can use. So the next is the media. Media is quite self-explanatory. Anything that has to do with a removable device, external storage, anything removable. This is usually where you can troubleshoot them, or you can find details with them. So the next is the /mnt. Majorly, this is used as a mount point for mounting things like storage, things like creating partitions and all that. So this is used as your mount point for file system and storage and what have you. So /opt is optional application software package directory. So it contains your software packages, the ones that you build yourself. So it contains those. You can always put it in /opt. Then the next is /tmp. tmp is a directory for temporary files. So files that usually, most times, whatever you do, whatever is in the tmp directory doesn't, once you shut down your system, it's gone because it's temporary. So it's usually like will I say it's similar to your RAM. I don't know if that analogy is correct, where once what you're currently doing on your Linux environment, some of them are actually stored on the tmp directory. So once you shut down all those things, it goes away. So if you need anything that you wouldn't want to go away, so it's advisable for you to move it away from your tmp directory to another directory. So the last here that is shown on the screen is the /usr. So this is where the users home directory was originally kept back in the early days. So it's no longer, the home directory of users have been moved to /home. So it just contains for now the /usr contains how do I explain it now? It contains applications, libraries, documentation, just things that can be shared by applications and services. So that's an overview of the file system. So I'm going to go to our terminal now and show us all this. So if we go straight to the terminal, and if you will notice that there is a /, that's / before all this /bin /root /dev /etc. But in the root directory, there is no /. There's nothing written on it, because this is the beginning, or this is like the starting point of the file system. So every other thing takes their root from the root directory, and that's why there's always a / in front of every other thing, because it all starts from the root directory. So I'm going to go to our terminal. So I'm logged in, and whenever you log into your Linux environment, there are some commands you need to get used to. So the first command you will need to get used to is who am I. So this particular command tells you who you are. So just to be sure that you're logged in as the correct person, though you will still see your name here. This is the user's name. This is the server's name. So we created all this when we were doing the installation. So the first thing is you ask, who am I? So if you see a different name here, then it shows that you are logged in as a different user. So you have to be careful so that you don't start doing things on a different account. So the next thing you want to do is you want to type is pwd. So pwd just means present working directory. So it shows you where you currently are. Okay, so right now I'm in /home/vetrax, and you remember coming here, there's a /home here. So this is which is the user's home directory. So that means I'm in the home directory, but I'm in vetrax home directory inside the home directory of the root. So so now I'm going to show you the file system. Let me just clear this. So if I do cd means change directory. So this is what you use to move from one place to another. This is basically your movement to, or your movement command. So you're changing directory. That means you're moving from this particular directory, this particular folder, to a different folder, or this particular directory to a different directory. So basically this is your movement command. So this is similar to using your mouse, or using your mouse to navigate with your cursor. So you take your cursor on your Windows PC, just the way you can see my cursor. I'm moving my cursor around my screen right now. In Linux environment, it's CD that you use to move. So I do CD space. After you type CD, you need to specify where you want to go to. So where do I want to go to? I want to go to the root directory, because like I showed you earlier, it's slash. So I want to go to the root directory. So I do cd and slash, that's the /, which is the root directory. So I press enter. So usually when you press enter in the in your Linux terminal and you don't get any error response, most times it is assumed that, not 100% of the time, but most times it is assumed that that command that you typed ran successfully. But did it actually do what you asked it to do? It now depends on what you want it to do. But if you type a command and you don't get any error response, it means that the command that you typed ran successfully. But it could be that sometimes your command will run successfully and it wouldn't do what you want it to do. So it depends. Now I want to show you something. I want to increase this a bit. So you notice that here, this is a tilde sign before the dollar. So this tilde sign shows you that when you are in your Linux terminal and you see a tilde sign here, it means that you are working under a normal user, or you are working in a normal user's environment. But if you see a slash, it means that you are in the root environment. So these are some differences that you just have to understand and take note of. So I've talked about who am I, I've talked about pwd, I've talked about cd. The next command I'm going to talk about now is ls. So what does ls do? Ls is basically just to list the content of a directory. So ls is just like you're listing the content of a directory. So now I'm in the root directory. I want to list all the content in a directory. So if I press enter, so it gives me all the content in this directory. So we can see the bin, can see the boot, can see dev, can see home, you can see mnt, you can see opt, you can see sbin, you can see etc, so and a bunch of other things. So we are currently in the root directory, and these are the things that you're going to see here. You can take your time to read more or explore more on this directory one after the other. So after doing the ls, if I don't want to actually, you can format the way you're seeing things on your terminal. So the way it is now, it is arranged in a horizontal way, and I really do not like, or maybe I'm not really comfortable with the arrangement and I want to format this for it to be arranged in a vertical way, I can do that. How can I do that? There's something called options and arguments. So these options and arguments, it helps you to tailor the way you want the output of your command to look like. So if you don't want to use the normal, or if you don't want to view it in the normal way, you can use options or arguments to tailor this command in the way you want it to look like. So ls actually lists the contents of this directory. But if I want to list it, if I want it to come in as a list, not as a straight line, I will do something like -l. So if I add the -l, adding -l means that you want it in a list format, like in a straight line format. And when I click enter, as you can see, it's different from this one. And ls-l gives you more details about a directory. So you can see all these things. You can see these numbers and rows and all this other stuff that you are seeing. We are going to go into each part in details, but it's just know this: ls-l helps you to list the contents of a directory in a horizontal format, and it also gives you more details about the directory. So now that we have talked about the Linux file system, we're going to go into the next thing, which is terminal navigation. So I think I've even covered part of it already. Terminal navigation are your cd, your ls, and your cd, your ls, and the likes. So if I do ls here, now I'm back. If you notice, I'm no longer in my root directory. I'm back in my home directory. If I do ls here, there is nothing here because I've not created anything in my own directory. But there's a way, there are some times that you want to do things that you need to create some hidden folders. So like for example now, your .env, your .env is a file that you don't want to show to the public because that's where you put your environmental variables, and you don't want your environmental variables to be visible to the public. So most times it is advisable to put your environmental variables if you're configuring stuff and you are doing things, and there are some variables that you want to be kept private and not really accessible to the public. You can put them in a .env file. We're going to be creating that here when we get there. But what I'm trying to drive at is that there's a way you can also view your how do I call it now? Your hidden files. So this is how you can do that. You do your ls, you want to list. You can do l, that's you still want to list it as a list, but you add a. So once you do ls-la, you're listing what is in this place. You want it as a vertical list, but you want to also see if there are any hidden files or hidden folders in this current directory. So you add your a to it. So you can see when I did ls at first, it didn't give me anything, but when I did ls-a, it gave me all this .bash history, .bash login, logout, .bash hrc, and stuff like that. So basically, these are files that the Linux system itself doesn't want you to tamper with these files, because these are files that if it gets in the hands of the wrong person who doesn't really understand how all these files work and the things that are inside this file, they can tamper with your system. And if you notice that there is a dot in front of each file, so you see dot, you see .bash history, you see .cache, .profile, .ssh. So once you want to create a hidden file, the first thing you do is you put a dot before the name. Once you put a dot before the name, Linux understands that you're trying to create a hidden file. So it's going to create the file. However, it's not going to show when you do your normal ls. So when I did ls now, we are still in the same place. We are still in the same place. Let me clear it just for. So if you want to clear your, if your terminal is filled up and you want to clear it, just type clear or Control L. So if I do, let me do pwd, that's to print my present working directory. I'm in /home/vetrax. If I do ls, I see nothing. But if I do, let me do pwd again, I'm still in /home/vetrax. But if I do ls-la, I see all this. So that's because these files are hidden files that you wouldn't want people to get access to anyhow, so that they don't tamper with whatever you want to do or whatever you are doing, and then gives you a big issue. So that's basically your navigation command. You do use your cd basically for navigation. You use your present working directory to print where you currently are, just to confirm where you are. You use your ls to show a list of all the contents in a directory. So once that is out of the way, let's see what we have next. So what we have next is file and folder management. So file and folder management, this has to do with, what I mean by file and folder management is creating of files, copying of files, deleting of files, editing of files, anything that has to do with files and folder, anything you have to do with management of files and folder. That's what we're going to cover in this particular session. So let me clear my screen. So the first command I want to introduce you to is the command to create a file. How do we create a file? There are various ways of creating a file, but to keep it simple, the command to create a file is touch. So the command is touch. When you type touch, then what is the name of the file you want to create? So I can say file1 dot txt. So I want to create a text file named file1. So once I do touch is the command to create a file. So once I click on it, I didn't get any error response. But let's see if our file was actually created. So how do we list the content of a directory? We use ls. So if we type ls, you can see that file1 is there. So you can see it. You can see it here. So that's the command to create a file. There are various ways of creating a file. Actually, I'm going to talk about that with time going forward. So now we've created a file using touch command. How do we create a directory? It's not the same command to create a file and directory. To create a directory, we use the command mkdir. Mkdir means make directory. So it's a short form for make directory. So what directory do I want to make? So let's make a directory called 100 days of DevOps. So we are making a directory called 100 days of DevOps. When I mean directory, I mean folder. Like I said, I'll be using them interchangeably. Directory and folder, they mean one and the same. So I'm making a directory called 100 days of DevOps. And if you notice, for my file, I did .txt. But for my directory, I don't need to do that because there are different types of files. We have sh files. We have okay, for example, now we have PDF, we have Word file, we have doc file, we have normal txt file. So there are various types of file. But when you want to create a folder on your system, you actually don't specify. A folder is a folder. They are not different types or different flavors of folder. So it's one and the same. So I don't need to put any extension, any dot, anything. So once I click enter, I don't get an error response. So I want to assume that this command actually worked. So how do I confirm that? I type ls, and if you can see, as you can see there, that it's there, 100 days of DevOps, and the file I created also is also there. Now you will notice that there's a difference in color. 100 days of DevOps is in blue while the file .txt is in white. It's just because of the way the terminal is. Like I said, this SSH client, it just gives you different colors, because with these colors you can be able to differentiate which is which. So when I see a blue colored stuff on my terminal, I know that this is a file, this is a directory or a folder. And if I see a white colored write up on my terminal, I know this is a file. So it's just a way for you to differentiate. It's just a way for you to differentiate things. It just helps for you to differentiate things on your terminal. So the next command I'm going to talk about is the command to rename a file. So if you want to rename a file, let's say, okay, I have this file 1, I don't like the name and I want to rename it. The command for that is mv. So mv does two things. Mv can be used to rename a file. Mv can be used to move a file from one place to another. So I'm going to use this command, this same command, but I'm going to use it in two ways right now. So the first way I'm going to use it is I'm going to use it to rename a file first. So what file do I want to rename? I want to rename file1.txt. So you need to specify the file you want to rename. Then you now specify what name do you want to rename this file. Let's say renamed file.txt. So I'm changing the name of this file from file1.txt to renamed file.txt, and I'm using the mv command. So when I click on enter, I didn't get any error response. So I want to believe that this command ran successfully. And how do I confirm that? I do ls. So if you notice now that it's now renamed file.txt, it's no longer file1.txt, it's now renamed file.txt. So that's the first way for you to use the mv command. Like I said, I'm going to use the mv command in two ways. Mv can be used to rename a file. Mv can also be used to move a file from one place to another. It's different from the copy. Copy is when you're copying a file, you're copying you're making a copy of that file and sending it somewhere. But when you're moving that file, you're taking it away from this place completely. So I'm going to use this same command mv, this same mv. I want to move this renamed file. So if you notice that the names are autofilling. So if you want to autofill, or if you want to type your commands faster, once you start typing, you use the tab key. Once you press on the tab key twice, that's the key just directly above your caps lock. When you press on it twice, it auto-completes. As long as that file, as long as that directory exists, it's going to auto-complete. So it's just like that. Double tap is meant for auto-completion of what you're already writing, so you don't have to stress yourself in writing everything. So now I want to move this renamed file. I want to move it to this 100 days of DevOps folder. So when I type ./100 days of DevOps, so it auto-completes. Now I'm going to enter this now. Then when I'm done, I'm going to explain some things to you. So when I click on enter, I don't get an error response. So I'm hoping that I'm not supposed to see, if I do ls, I'm not supposed to see this renamed file here, but I'm supposed to see it when I go inside 100 days of DevOps. So when I do ls, I don't see it. I'm only seeing 100 days of DevOps. However, if I should move, or if I should go into the 100 of DevOps folder, how do I do that? I do cd. Like I said, cd is our movement command. So when I do 100 days of DevOps, and I press enter, and I do ls, so you can see that renamed file.txt is inside 100 days of DevOps. So when I do pwd, that's to show you where I am. So I am in /home/ my user, which is Vetrax, and I'm in 100 days of DevOps file. So that's just to confirm that I'm actually inside 100 days of DevOps file, and this renamed file.txt is inside this folder. So now you would notice that I did something. Okay, before I talk about that, if I want to go back, say now I'm in 100 days of DevOps folder, how do I go back to my user's home directory? I do cd, which is our movement command. You do ... So when you do cd ... you are moving a step backwards. That's you're moving to your previous folder, or yeah, that's where you're coming from. You're moving from where you currently are to where you were before. So I'm moving from 100 days of DevOps to my home directory. So if I press enter, you notice I'm no longer here. If I do pwd, so I'm now in home.vetrax. So this might be, if you're somebody who is new to all this, it might be a lot, but just with constant practice, just take your time. I also did not learn all this in one day, but with constant practice and with your own personal research, you would get familiar and you'll be able to use all these tools very well. So now I said I wanted to talk about something, which is when I did the MV when I did this MV rename, and I did a dot and / before I typed my folder name. So there's something called there's something called path. So this path is basically where is a particular file or folder located. It's just like a location of the folder. That's what we call paths. So now there are two types of paths. There's the absolute path and there's the relative path. So what do I mean by absolute and relative path? So if I do cd to 100 days of DevOps, and I do ls, and I do pwd. So this is the absolute path because it is starting from the root. So it's starting from the root, which is this / that we have here. Then the root has the home directory. The home directory has the Vetrax directory. The Vetrax directory has the 100 days of DevOps directory. So I could have, instead of doing the dot / and 100 days of DevOps, I can always just do /home /vetrax /100 days of DevOps, and it will still be the same thing. So this is where you declare your path, taking it from the root. That's what they call absolute path. But relative path is you're starting from where you currently are. For example, now I'm in 100 days of DevOps folder. If I want to go forward from here, I start from where I currently am and I do dot. Dot means start from this particular place. So when you see dot, is that I know dot, as I've said like 2 things or 3 things already that dot means, but that's just how Linux is. You just have to understand which dot is used for which purpose. So dot means start from this particular place. So what I did here was, since, let me do cd ... ls. So since the 100 days of DevOps folder is in my home directory, I want to start from my home directory. So I do dot and I do /. When you do dot, you must include the / because that / indicates that it's a directory or it's a folder. So that's like the difference between absolute and relative path. So if you want to go forward now, since I'm in my home directory, if I want to go forward from here now, I can start from there. I can say dot slash. I can do cd dot slash 100 days of DevOps. If I press enter, it will take me there. pwd. So I'm in 100 days of DevOps folder. However, I can also do, let me do cd dot dot. Let me clear my screen. I can also do cd slash home slash vetrax slash 100 days of DevOps. It's still going to take me to the same place. So it just depends on whichever you want to use and where you currently are in your terminal or in your file system. That will determine where how you want to use these things. If you're going to use an absolute path or if you're going to use a relative path. So I think I've covered the third section, which is file, and okay, no, I haven't covered it. I just talked about mv, the mv command. The mv command, which can be used to either rename a file or folder or move a file or folder from one place to another. So apart from move, we also have the copy command. Copy is cp. Cp is a copy command that's used to copy files, it's used to copy folders from one place to another. So let's check where we are. Okay, so now beautiful. I'm in 100 days of DevOps folder and I have the renamed file.txt file in this particular folder. So I want to copy this. I want to copy this from this 100 days of DevOps back to my home directory. Now I am not moving, I'm copying it. So if I'm copying it, it means that there will be a copy of this file in this 100 days of DevOps directory and also a copy of this file in my user's home directory, which is vetrax. So I'm going to do cp, which file am I copying? I'm copying renamed. I don't need to type any dot or slash because what I want to copy is already there. So renamed file.txt. Now in this case, how do I know how to copy this? Now I can't use I can't use a relative path because this 100 days of DevOps is in my home directory. So I can't start from this particular directory and go back. So it's when you want to go front. And even there's another file or a folder in this particular directory, then I can use the absolute path, the relative path rather. So if I want to do this now, I have to use the absolute path. I have to start from, because with this command, you can't go backwards. It's as if you're going forward. And you know, I'm trying to copy this particular file back to my home directory. So if I use, let's even try it. Let's try it. I'm trying to copy to vetrax folder. So if I press enter, and I do ls, so it just created a file called vetrax. It didn't copy because there is no folder. There's no folder here and it can't go back. So that's the difference between an absolute and a relative path. With an absolute path, you're starting from where you are and you're going forward. But if you're using with a relative path rather, you're starting from where you are and you're going forward. But with an absolute path, you can go from where you are to any place. So instead of doing this, I'll do cp renamed file.txt, then I'll start from /home /vetrax, and I'll just press enter. You know, this is the difference. Now I'm doing /home /vetrax. The other time I just did a dot and a slash and I did vetrax. So when I press enter, I get no error response. Now, that's what I said earlier. You can type a command and you don't get an error response, but it doesn't mean that the command has worked the way you wanted it to work. So like now, when I did this particular command, I didn't get an error response, but did it do what I wanted it to do? No, it did something else. So that's the thing about Linux. Even though you don't get any error response when you type a command, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has actually done what you actually wanted it to do. So now I did this command now and I didn't get any error response, but let's confirm if it works. When I do ls here, I'm only seeing these two folders that were there. So let's go back to our Vetrax folder. So when I do pwd, now I'm in /home/Vetrax. When I do ls, you see that the file is here, renamed file.txt. So I copied from 100 days of DevOps to rename to my home directory, which is Vetrax directory. So lastly, in this particular section will be the deleting command. So if I want to, okay, fine, I've made a mistake now and I want to delete, or I created a file that I didn't want to create and I want to delete that file. So which command would I use to do that? So let's go into this folder. Now I created a file called Vetrax and I didn't want to, so I want to remove that file. What is the command for removing the file? The command is rm, which is short form for remove. So you can use rm to delete a file or to delete, yes, basically you can use it to delete a file. There's a different command for deleting folders. So, but I'm deleting file. Let me delete the file first, then I will delete the folder. So rm, which file do I want to delete? Vetrax. So that's just all. I click enter. When I do ls, Vetrax is gone. So this is the command for deleting. So let's go back and I want to delete a folder. Now I'm going to delete this 100 days of DevOps folder. So what's the command for deleting a folder? I can do, it's rm also, but you need to add dir. So remember when we were making a directory, we did mkdir. So when you want to delete a directory or a folder, it's rmdir. So which folder do I want to delete? I want to delete 100 days of DevOps. And I press enter. Now this throws me an error. So it says failed to remove 100 days of DevOps. Why? Directory is not empty. So that is one of the rules in Linux. You cannot delete a folder or a directory that is not empty. It is not empty because if I do cd 100 days of DevOps and I do ls, this has a file renamed file.txt. So as long as there's something inside a file or a folder or a directory, you can't use the rmdir command. You can't delete it. Now there are two ways to go about it. You can cd into the directory, then manually delete. You can do rm, then delete the file. And there's another way you can do it. You can do rmdir -r 100 days of r. So now this -r, what it does is that it's like you're deleting. It's like a let's say it's like a super command. That what I mean by super command, it's not like it's for super users alone, but it's like a command that forcefully deletes. It first deletes every file in the folder, then deletes the folder. So let's say rmdir -r, then the name of the folder. When I click on enter, it gives me, okay, I think it's, let me see, rmdir, I think it's small r, 100 days of DevOps. Am I making a mistake somewhere? Let's see. Invalid option. Let me see, man. rmdir -help. Okay, so it's -p, not -r. That was a mistake. And that's why Linux is actually very dicey. Nobody knows it, or you can make a mistake. And that's why Linux has manuals and help command. We are going to talk about that when we get to manual pages and help. So I forgot the command to use for it, and I got help by typing -help. So let me do rmdir -p, then 100 days of DevOps. Hopefully it works. Failed to remove directory. Directory is not empty. Let me try. Okay. rmdir -p 100 days of DevOps rename. So I'm going to confirm this. Okay, -p is for making directory. So we'll just cd into the directory, and we do ls cd 100 days of DevOps ls. So we do rm rename file. So do cd back, and we do remove directory 100 days of DevOps, and it's gone. When I do ls, I don't see it there, and I do pwd, I'm in my home directory. So we've been able to cover creating of files, creating of directory, moving of files, renaming of files, copying of files, and deleting of files and directory. So the next we're going to go into is viewing and editing files. So let's go to our terminal. So if you want to edit a file, if I do ls, I said I have renamed file.txt. So I have a file, but it's empty. So how do I add text, or how do I add something into this file? So there are ways you can go about it. There's a command called echo. Echo basically echo is a command that it just like the name sounds, it echoes back whatever you say. If you say echo I am a DevOps engineer, and I click enter, so it says back whatever you say into it. If I say echo I am learning DevOps, and I click enter, it's going to say exactly what you typed. So there's a way you can now, instead of it bringing out instead of it showing you what you have typed to it, you can redirect the output of this particular command into a file. So I will just do, if to redirect, you use a single arrow, that's your greater than. So you do that, and I want to redirect it to renamed file.txt. So if I click on enter, if you notice that I did not get any output, however, if I should check what is inside the content of renamed file.txt, I will see I'm a DevOps engineer there. Now, how do you check the content of a file? You use the command cat. One of the commands is cat renamed file.txt. When I click enter, I see I am a DevOps engineer. So I redirected that output instead of the echo command showing the output of what I just typed. I redirected it into a file. So and I just viewed the content of that particular file. So now there's another way for you to write content into a file. There's a command called there's a editing tool for Linux called Vim. So Vim. So when I type Vim and the name of the file, it takes me to an editing interface. So you can see now that there's already I am a DevOps engineer in this particular file just because we echoed this particular phrase into this file. So I'm here now. How do I edit a file in Vim? For you to edit a file in Vim, you press your letter I key on your laptop. So immediately I press my letter I key, if you look down here, it showed insert. So as long as you're seeing, if you press your I key and it shows you insert, it means that you're free to type whatever you want to type. If it does not show you insert, then probably you're doing something wrong. So I can enter, I'm a DevOps engineer. I am currently learning DevOps. This is 100 days of DevOps day 2. So I'm a DevOps engineer. I'm currently learning DevOps. This is 100 days of DevOps day 2. How do I save this file now? What you do is that you press your escape button on your laptop. When I press escape button, you see that insert disappears. So with this escape button, I cannot type on this file. If I want to type on this file again, I have to press the I again, so insert comes back. So I click on escape button. What do? Then you type your colon, your colon key. You do W. W means write this particular write these phrases into this file. So once you do that, then Q. That's after writing, you quit. W means write it. That's saying save this write up into this particular file. Then after that, you quit and you end with an exclamation mark. So I'll take it again. You press escape, you press your colon, WQ, and an exclamation mark, and you hit enter. So it saves and it takes you away from the editor. So it's called a Vim editor. So colon WQ saves your write-up and exits the editor. Now, how am I sure that what I typed is saved? I can view the content again. I can do cat rename.txt. So you can see it now. It shows I am a DevOps engineer. I'm currently learning DevOps. This is 100 days of DevOps day 2. So that's for editing of files and then writing of files and viewing files. So we're going to move into there are now different ways of viewing files. There are ways that if you want to do cat / etc / so now when I did this command I just wrote now is when you want to view the users that you've created in your Linux system, you run /cat. You're viewing cat is a command to view. So I'm viewing this directory /etc/passwd. And if you notice now, I'm using an absolute path, not a relative path, because I just want to move from one folder to another folder. They are not in the same. They're not in the same place, so I can't use a relative path. I have to use an absolute path. So /etc/passwd gives you all the users you've created, and this is a whole lot. So if I don't want to see all this, there's a way I can see the last 10 or the last 5 or the first 5. So if I do, how do I do that? If I do head -n5 slash etc slash password, let me delete this first. Head -n5 slash etc slash password. It only brings the first 5. So it has the root, the daemon, the bin, the sys, and the sync. If we come here, so if you see it, we have the root, the daemon, the bin, the sys, and the sync. So this gives you, it's like head, like show me the top of the write-up, but I need just the first 5 lines. So I can decide not to specify this n-5. So if I don't specify the n-5 and I just do head, it will head and then this, it will show me the first 10. The default is 10. So but if I don't want 10, if I want like lesser than 10 or more than 10, I'll just use -s, which means this n is how many number of lines do you want to see. So I want to see the first 5 lines, and that's why I have to specify this. So the reverse of that, if I want to see the last or the bottom 5, I just do tail -n5 slash etc slash password. So you see it gave me the last 5. So we have Vetrax, SSHD, USB Mux, FWPD, and landscape. And if we come here, it's the same thing here, this and this and this and this. So that's basically is also a way for you to it's like you're manipulating, or you control how you want your Linux terminal to display whatever output you want. So under here, we've learned how to you might not get it at the first instance, but when you go back to the video and you rewatch it and then you follow along, also you try these commands, the more you do it, the more you get used to it, the more you get familiar with it. So Linux is a very, very interesting operating system, especially if you are conversant with the command line. It's usually very, very beautiful. Many people run away from command lines, but when you hack it, when you get a hold of it, it becomes something that you're always eager and joyful to do. And as a DevOps engineer, you actually be working with command lines a lot. So it's something that you need to actually be very, very good at. You need to be able to find your way around it. So it's okay if you forget 1 or 2 commands, like the way I did. So it's okay if you forget 1 or 2 commands. You can always just go and Google it. So nobody's actually perfect. So yeah, we've learned how to write text into a file using the cat command, using the echo command, and using the Vim editor. We've learned how to view the contents of a file using the cat command. We've also learned how to streamline our view to the first 5 and the last 5 lines in that particular file. So that's about that. So you can always do more research on your own. If there's any part that I probably did not cover, you can, of course, I can't cover everything. So this is not a Linux course or a Linux challenge. It's for DevOps. So I'm not really going to be going too deep into covering Linux. So the more we interact, the more we go in our journey, then the more we get familiar with more commands. And when you do your research on your own, then you get to understand things better also.